Welcome to Wellspring Wednesday. We are so glad that you are participating with us in worship today. We invite you to join Drew and I and Joshua Taylor in singing and praying and lighting a chalice or candle today in worship. And join us also in giving a big welcome to Joshua Taylor for accompanying on piano today. Thank you for being with us. Growing up, my family often said grace before eating dinner, and I loved it. And I'm not exactly sure why. I think, though, it was in part that I could come to the table and I could be grumpy about something that happened at school, or bickering with my younger brother, or ecstatic and bubbling over about something that I was excited for, or working through and struggling at a project that was challenging me. Wherever I was, I could come and sit at the table and be a part of a moment where we each took the time, risking our dinner getting cold, to give thanks and to make room for grace. Come, let us light our chalices and worship together. And will you join us in singing the first two verses of Amazing Grace? Each week we take the time to listen to the joys and sorrows swirling throughout our community. Together we celebrate, we grieve, we tenderly hold what is right now, as well as what we long for to come. Drew and I will continue to reach out via email to ask families to share with us and invite you, as you feel moved, to share your joys and sorrows. This week we are sharing from the families of first and second graders in our congregation. From 7-year-old Felix Thymer, he says his joys are listening to James and the Giant Peach audiobook and snow fort building and his working body. Sorrows are worries about so many people getting coronavirus and for not being able to see his cousins for Thanksgiving. Mom, Kayla Brickman-Thymer, shares her joys for a healthy family and getting excited cooking new and different foods for Thanksgiving. Her sorrows include the present and active stress level at work with healthcare staffing. From Sula Espin-Joel and Faith Krogstad, our joys are the kids in our RE class because they are preserving and deepening our community, even online. And sorrows are deciding to skip our end-of-year camper cabin trip because of COVID. From 7-year-old Winnie Boyd, joy is taking the time for self-care in-home spa treatments, which are very fun and relaxing family time. Sorrows is a classmate's mom unexpectedly passed away. She's sending love and peace to her classmate and his family. From 8-year-old Marina Savolianen Lee, her joys are that Thanksgiving and Christmas are coming and that Biden won the election. Sorrow is that the coronavirus is here, ruining a lot of fun. Mom Tony Lee, my joy is that we are in good health and I am able to enjoy more downtime with Marina. And my sorrow is that the isolation and inability to engage in usual activities is beginning to wear on me. From the Ox and Wong family, Nora, Owen, Jeff, and Tian, our sorrow is that Nora and Owen's gem of a great-grandmother passed away recently at the age of 94. We are celebrating her well-lived life, but also grieving not being able to do so in the embrace of all our family members and the many friends she touched. Our joy is we had our first cozy fireplace fire of the winter season this evening, and it warmed all of our hearts. In our hearts and prayers today, we also want to recognize that this Friday is Transgender Day of Remembrance. The Human Rights Campaign writes, sadly, 2020 has already seen at least 36 transgender or gender nonconforming people fatally shot or killed by other violent means, the majority of which were Black and Latinx transgender women. We say at least because too often these stories go unreported or misreported. I know that this weighs heavily on me, and I invite you to light a candle for and hold our trans and queer siblings within and beyond our congregation, celebrating our lives, especially this week. And will you pray with me? Source of all, with you we pray. Sometimes the weight of it all feels like too much. Unexpected loved ones passing away. Loved ones, community members, queer and trans siblings expectedly passing away. The pandemic climbing and moving in expected and unexpected ways. Sometimes it feels like too much, and we begin to wear. Whether we are asked to do too much or have not enough to do, we can begin to wear. In these moments, especially in these moments, may we remember to reach out to one another in any way that we can. May we remember our breath, our songs, our chalices, saying grace before a meal. These rituals and spiritual practices, may we remember that they are here even in the hardest of times. May we remember our bodies and feel them working, be gentle with them, and take sweet care of them. May we give thanks for the warmth of family fires and our RE community deepening and all the snow forts that come and go as the snow comes and goes, as our emotions and experiences come and go, as we, each a wave and together part of the ocean, come and go. May we continue to share and love the multitude of our joys and sorrows, coming and going and swirling together. May it be so, and amen.
or at least we know what it's about. It's hard to trace the origins of the story, as it's been found in Central Europe, in Ireland, even in China. But the story still makes sense for us to tell today, no matter where it comes from. A story of a feast that is enjoyed by people who maybe weren't at their best, maybe didn't deserve this. So the story, as I know it, takes place in the foothills of the Swiss Alps, and there is a peddler who travels this rugged ground all year long. And as a peddler, he goes from small village to small community, and he brings with him tools and cooking items and spices and fabrics and jewelry, and he brings these to each town and he trades with the townspeople with the things that they have in their town. And this is how he makes his living. And the people of these small towns are generally fairly happy to see him as he makes his yearly visit. On this particular day, he enters a town that is high in the Alps. And he knows that this is a town where the people are quiet and reserved, and yet they are hardworking, good people, and he knows that they make fine products. And so he's weary, and he enters the town ready to do business. Now, immediately when he gets to the town, there are not a lot of people around. What he doesn't know is that the town has had a difficult year. The town has had poor crops in this past year and some other hardships. And so people that he saw as he was approaching the town have scurried off into their houses, and not many people are around. He enters the town and soon finds out what is going on when he encounters an old-timer. He hails the old-timer. "Hail, old-timer, good day to you."
What's so good about it, peddler?
Well, we are alive and we are happy, aren't we?
Barely alive, and none too happy.
Well, maybe some pleasant trading can happen to make us all happy.
I dare say, there won't be much trading with any strangers going on. We've had a rough year, and just last month we had trouble with some thieves and tricksters that came through town.
Well, the peddler was very sorry to hear this. He knew that it was a bad situation for him to come into. See, if the people of the town were scared or distrusting of you as a peddler, it would be tough to do business. And worse, since the peddler was very tired and very hungry from his journey, he really needed to at least be welcome enough for some food and some rest. But as the old-timer said, the peddler found very few folks willing to talk at all, much less make a trade. "Could I interest you in any ribbons or fine cloth, sir?"
I've nothing to trade, sir, and no need of any fine cloth or the other pretty junk you're peddling.
Okay, but tell me, is there anything you might have for me to eat that you'd be willing to allow me to trade for?
Nothing. I have nothing, barely enough for my family, and we've nothing for your kind around here.
The peddler encountered the same message at each house where he stopped, and soon he was becoming desperate as it felt hopeless, unless. So the peddler went to the small town square, a clearing near the well, and he unstrapped his large pot. He filled it with water from the well, and he built a fire. And as he did these things, he whistled loudly, and he sang, stone soup, a feast for the belly and for the soul. Stone soup, And in no time, another old-timer hobbled over, curious to see what this strange peddler was up to.
What's all the racket? What's this about stone soup?
What? You have never enjoyed stone soup before? Never in your life?
Stone soup? Sounds awful. What is it?
Well, I know it's hard to believe, but it starts here with these wonderful, amazing magic stones that I have. And these magic stones, when placed in water and allowed to simmer for a while, will make us an amazing, amazing soup.
Foolishness. I don't believe it.
But soon an old woman hobbled over, talked to the old-timer, and he told her what was going on.
Pshaw, what nonsense.
No, this is the best soup you've ever had. I'll be glad to let you try it here when it's done. You will not believe it.
Water and rocks. You're right, I don't believe it.
Well, go and get your bowl and we will see. Now I admit, if we had a couple of onions, That would really tie it all together. That would give it some zip. But I know no one in town has a single thing to offer, so that's fine. We will just wait on the stones.
Well, if an onion or two is all you need, I can add that, I suppose.
Wonderful, wonderful. And another townsperson came forward.
What's this foolishness?
Stone soup, a bit of magic, a little faith, and we are all going to have more than we could ever deserve.
I don't believe it. No carrots even?
Well, now, of course, a few carrots, that would be wonderful. It would make it that much more amazing. If you wanted to give a few carrots, that would be great. But you can have a bowl whether you have carrots or not.
Well, a few carrots I can do.
And so it went for the next hour or so. As the townspeople got curious, they came out of their houses to see what was happening. For each one who asked, the peddler said, "You may have a bowl of this amazing soup." And as each one asked, "What? Wouldn't it be good if there was a potato? Rutabaga? Some salt? A handful of beans? A cabbage? Wouldn't that be wonderful?" And the peddler said, "Why, of course, it would be wonderful if we had these things. If you have them, they are welcome. But it doesn't matter if you do or not. You are all welcome to a bowl of this amazing soup." And after a time, finally, the town's most important person came. He was of the family who raised cattle, and being somewhat self-important, he needed to tell the townspeople what was going on.
People, you're being simple. This peddler is fooling you. Everyone knows you can't make a soup without a soup bone, for crying out loud.
Well, now, yes, it is true. Generally speaking, you need a good soup bone for a good soup. But with my magic soup stones, that's all we really need for this amazing feast. And look, all of your fellow townspeople are here to taste for themselves. And I invite you as well.
It does smell truly fabulous, I admit. And all from your soup stones, you say.
All from the soup stones, yes. And everyone here has managed to throw in just some simple thing they have laying around. And so for the price of a small handful of beans, a tiny rutabaga, everyone will receive a miracle feast, far greater than any one of us deserves.
Well, I can manage a few small soup bones for a taste. That would be all right.
That would be absolutely fine. And so it happened over the next couple hours that the townspeople came out of their houses, and they all added a little bit to the stone soup. And they talked, and they laughed, and they even sang a song or two. And finally it was time to serve the soup, and no one could remember a finer soup. No one could remember a greater feast. And they owed it really to each other, and they owed it to the peddler, who had the grace to receive their unkindness with hope for something better. Amazing stone soup.
Thank you for that eventful story, Drew. Will you now join with us in singing "For the Beauty of the Earth," which, if you have a hymnal, is on 21.
For the mystic
life brings us, that we can accept it with grace. Our joys, our sorrows, our hardships, and everything wonderful that we can contribute. May it be so. A feast that is more than we deserve. Amen.
Amen.
Stone soup, mix up a pot of stone soup. Stone soup, mix up a pot of stone soup. The recipe's simple, just start with a stone.